Hello again, I am Blunty. Now, recently people have been getting on my tits a bit because I'm being meanie poo about the Nintendo Switch. I'm being a hater about the Nintendo Switch. This is based on a couple of videos where I criticized Nintendo, not the Switch. There is a difference, people. Fanboys is the issue. We all know the simplistic, idle psychology of the fanboy. If you say anything disparaging or anything that can be construed as negative or questioning the glory of whatever brand they've attached their ego monsters to, they freak out, instantly detaching themselves from all concept of logical thought and just they call you names, basically. But yeah, there is a difference between being critical of the Switch and being critical of Nintendo. I have been more critical of Nintendo than I have of the Switch because I know what Nintendo are. They've demonstrated what they are. The Switch is a relatively unknown quantity. I haven't got my hands on it yet. I have pre-ordered one. I will check it out. I will give it a fair review on its own merits. But one of the videos I made most recently about the Switch, or indeed about Nintendo's attitude towards the Switch and what's going on with the paid online service, because like Sony PlayStation and like Xbox before them, they now have a paid subscription service without which you cannot access many of the most essential online features, like multiplayer gaming, for example. One of the big questions hanging over that would be, how much would it cost? Because Nintendo have yet to demonstrate that they're even capable of making a decent online service worth using for free, let alone one that justifies you giving them money for the privilege of using their historically spectacularly crap online services. Well, that question has been answered somewhat today. Nikkei, a Japanese newspaper, have a brief interview with head of Nintendo these days, Kimishima? I think it's Kimishima. Let me double check. Yes, Kimishima, Mr. Kimishima. And they've got a couple of quotes in there about two different things. One of which is the price of the online service, which, thankfully, at least in Japan, is going to be significantly cheaper than what PlayStation and Xbox both ask for their yearly subscription. It will be, in fact, and I quote here, an annual fee of 2,000 yen to 3,000 yen. That's a pretty big window, so they haven't even made up their mind of what the price is going to be yet, apparently. But that translates fairly roughly, to give us a sort of a window here, anywhere between sort of 20 and 30 bucks American per year. That's not too bad. Of course, who knows what I will have to wind up paying if I want to take advantage of Nintendo's online services, because Nintendo Australia are real sods about their pricing. You just have to look at the obnoxious pricing of the Switch itself in Australia to figure that out. It is way, way, way above the buffer that you would normally need for things like, the GST and import duties and, a bit of padding for the fluctuation of currencies and things like that. It's especially obnoxious when you do the same math as to what Xbox are asking for the Xbox One S, or PlayStation are asking for the PlayStation 4 Pro. They're padding the Australia tax that they add to the sort of direct currency conversion sort of price you would get is much, much smaller, much, much fairer, actually, much, much more, friendly to the consumer. Meanwhile, Nintendo Australia reached into their big bag of fuck yous and pulled out yet another one for the Australian consumer. So frankly, for all I know, by the time Australians have to pay for the online service, it probably will be 60 or 70 or 400 fucking dollars a year. Who knows? Point is, tangent rant. Point is, it does seem like a fairly reasonable asking price for an online service from Nintendo, again, who have yet to prove they're even capable of making an online service worth paying for. There's a little free window at the start. They're going to make us pay for it sort of, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the track. They haven't sort of nailed in that window about when they're going to start charging for an online service, presumably when there's actually enough games out there with online services worth paying for to play online. But that's another side rant about the pathetic situation about the Switch launch lineup. In the same interview, though, Kimishima also said Nintendo are continuing to study adding VR to the Switch. And late last year, there was a Nintendo patent that came to light, which did deal with one of these things, the plastic headsets that you slam your phone into and do that and put it on your head and go, ooh, it's VR. Nintendo have a patent on that in relation to the Switch. That would be a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Would you like to know why? Have you ever used one of these things with a phone that has a 1080p screen? It's pretty good. But have you ever used proper VR? Like this, which does not have a 1080p screen, it has two separate screens, exceeds 1080p. The HDK2, the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, they've all got higher res screens and they're all a far superior experience to using a 1080p screened phone in one of these. The Nintendo Switch has a 720p screen. Now, I don't have at hand a mobile phone that both has the power to run VR and is restricted to a 720p screen, but I can tell you right now, it is going to be atrocious. A VR snap-in headset for the Nintendo Switch, aside from being heavy, because the Nintendo Switch itself is larger than your average phone, significantly thicker, and heavier too. Slapping one of those on your face, I can't imagine how miserable and uncomfortable that will be to wear, let alone what it's going to look like with a 720p screen. So I ideally hope that Nintendo are considering not doing that. And all that's aside from the fact that your average mobile phone experience VR is 60 frames per second or so, which, given the types of screens on many mobile phones, tends to be a fairly blurry, latency-filled experience anyway, which is just not great on your eyes, whereas proper VR, PC-based VR, the expensive VR at the moment basically, has 90 frames per second on screens specifically designed for low latency, so they give a wonderful, wonderful experience. The Nintendo Switch, well, we don't know what kind of screen it's using, actually. We don't even know what kind of technology the screen is at the moment. Is it a TN, some sort of TN panel? Is it some sort of IPS derivative type of panel? We don't know. Is it OLED? We don't know, because Nintendo don't fucking talk about this shit, frustratingly. We still don't even know what kind of friggin' NVIDIA processor in there. Is it the original Tegra from like a year and a half ago now, with a few tweaks and upgrades for the Pascal architecture? Is it the brand new Pascal one? Is it something in between? Is it a completely custom one? People keep vomiting up the things that NVIDIA have said. Well, NVIDIA said it's a highly customized, latest technology NVIDIA chip, and people are assuming that means it's Pascal. That doesn't mean it's Pascal. The outdated Tegra has some Pascal architecture in it because it was made while Pascal was being developed, so it could be that. It could still be the old one, just because NVIDIA, who have a vested interest in making people think this is awesome, say, oh, it's got our latest technology, and it doesn't mean it's the newest version of the chip, inherently. That is marketing spin. So until the Switch is actually on the shelf and someone buys one and tears it apart, probably iFixit, because they're fantastic at doing that sort of stuff and identifying all the components very, very exactly, we just have no idea, which is incredibly frustrating. And that's another side rant I've gone off on. To boil all this down, to those of you who have made it to the end of this rambling gibberish video of thoughts just sliding off the top of my head and into my microphone and into the camera lens, Nintendo are thinking about doing VR. They've got a patent for one of these dummy headset things that you slide your screen into. That would be a terrible idea. Nintendo have also started thinking about generally what kind of price they want people to pay for their unproven online service, anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 yen, which is about 25 to 30 odd American dollars, or in Australian terms, probably $600 or $700 per month. Thanks for watching. I'm Blunty. We'll catch you next time.